Was good, was good, was good. Yo, it's your man, 100 grand, Ross with The Rock Never Stops. And tonight, quiet is kept. The Western Conference might be adding another contender to this playoff hunt. I want to dive into that in this video. If you like this video, smash that like button for me. Hit subscribe and the bell for notifications. And if you want to holler at me on Twitter, Rock Never Stops too. I'll be there as well. The Golden State Warriors, I want to start with them. We know they're a contender. We know that they're probably the favorite at full strength. They've got some question marks, but there's nothing that tells me that they shouldn't be able to handle the Phoenix Suns or anybody else. And yet, the Phoenix Suns are also there, and they're the number 1 seed. Right now, the Memphis Grizzlies are the number 2 seed. And Draymond Green was quoted after the game in which he was able to highlight in only, 15 minutes? Helped Stephen Curry score 41 points. But he was quoted as saying, they're not going to hunt for the number 2 seed. They're going to win the championship no matter what. And I don't believe this at all. I don't believe it at all. And I'm going to break this down in this video. You see, the Golden State Warriors are not a sure thing. They're not. Remember when they made their title runs, especially before they had Kevin Durant, their supporting cast was a supporting cast of veterans, still not necessarily in their prime, but close to it. And they knew how to play and enhance the games of Clay and Steph and Draymond. They don't have that same supporting cast. They have a bunch of young guys who've never been there before, who've never been under the bright lights. And I did a video recently wondering if they're ready for the big moment. But right next to them, right next to the Golden State Warriors, there's another young and hungry team who has their own MVP candidate, who can legitimately say they are a dark horse to come out of the West. Legitimately. The Memphis Grizzlies are no joke. They have been proving themselves game after game after big game throughout the entire season, rallying around their MVP candidate, Ja Morant. This band of merry men, this cohesive unit, this group of guys who love playing together, just got back their own version of Draymond Green and Dillon Brooks, who many refer to as their heart and soul. This is the guy who is a defensive, I don't want to say stopper, but he's the guy that you trust to say, hold the other team's number 1 scorer down, contain him. He's got the physicality, he's got the intensity, he's got the willingness, and he plays his role to a T. And he's being added to the number 2 seed of a team that is ready to make a run, a real run, for potentially an NBA championship. But I say all this to say, Phoenix, number 1 seed, contender for sure. They were just in the finals. Golden State Warriors, contender for sure. We know that they have the heart of a champion. They've been a dynasty already. Memphis Grizzlies, up and coming, loaded with talent, ready to show who they are and what their potential is. But if you look at who they would face in the playoffs in the first round, if they are the number 3 seed, it's the Denver Nuggets. The Denver Nuggets, led by last season's MVP, Nikola Jokic. Now, I'm not saying these teams don't have a chance to beat them. I'm not saying that they wouldn't even be favored to beat them. I am saying Denver might be becoming a contender over this next week or so. Because you know who's coming back? Michael Porter Jr. and Jamal Murray. two explosive scorers returning to one of the best defenses in the NBA, one of the most offensively efficient teams in the NBA, led by their dominant all-star center and MVP, Nikola Jokic. These guys have been operating without their second and third best player this entire season, practically. And yet they're the number 6 seed, barely behind the number 5 seed. And as they continue to take down teams one after the other, one can only begin to think about what they will be as a finished form. Because I'm telling you guys right now, I just watched a video of Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. doing workouts on the court February 28th. February 28th. That was half a month ago. Half a month ago, they're working out on the court. What this tells me is that not only are they not rushing these two back, but they're taking their time to make sure that when they come back, they have one of those Kevin Durant returns to the court. They're having one of those, I'm ready to hit the ground running. I'm ready for this playoff run. And right now, we have to somewhat be reminded, because I think as fans, as people who watch the game consistently or not, it's easy to kind of get this a revisionist history. Not revisionist history, but we become captives of the moment. That's what it is. And we forget. We forget very easily that this was a number 1 seed in the Western Conference only a season or so ago. This was a team who's been to the Western Conference Finals. This is a team who has been deep in the playoffs year after year after year. They've been in battles in the playoffs year after year after year. This was the Memphis Grizzlies 3-4 years ago. The up-and-coming, hungry team looking to make a name for themselves and prove themselves on the biggest stage. This is the team who went back-to-back with 50-point games from Jamal Murray against Donovan Mitchell and I believe it was the number 2 seed Utah Jazz at the time, and knocked them out of the first round. Or it might have been the second round. This is a team who's been in deep wars with the Portland Trail Blazers against Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum. This is a team that's been in playoff game 7s. This is a team that has been knocking on the door to get into the finals for years. Almost like the Milwaukee Bucks were knocking on the door for years. The Toronto Raptors were knocking on the door for years until they got their breakthrough. This Denver Nuggets team, if they get back a Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. at anywhere at 80% or higher, they are a legitimate contender. Let me repeat. If they get Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. back at 80% of themselves or better, they are contenders. And that is not who you want to see in the first round, especially if you're the Golden State Warriors. Now, I can be real with you. You don't necessarily, you don't want to be thinking about who you're going to be facing while you're in the regular season. You just want to play, and you want to play well, and you want to stay healthy. That's generally how you want to get into the playoffs, healthy and playing well. But both the Memphis Grizzlies and the Golden State Warriors have to be looking down and seeing this, seeing that the Denver Nuggets not only are playing great, but they're returning their second and third best player. You see, there's a big difference in facing either the New Orleans Pelicans or the Minnesota Timberwolves in the first round, or a contender in the first round, only to have to go to another contender in the second round, and then another contender in the third round. That type of a schedule would be brutal, absolutely brutal for the Golden State Warriors, who are an older team in terms of the core that they're depending upon to carry them. You see, Draymond Green can say, hey, we're not focused on the seeding. And he's probably true to an extent that they are probably more focused on being healthy and playing well. But hear me when I say that coaching staff, the organization, is 100% looking ahead and saying, we need that number 2 seed. We need that number 2 seed. But I want to know what you all think. Do the Golden State Warriors or Memphis Grizzlies need the number 2 seed? Is Denver really as much of a threat as I think they are as they get healthy? Do you think that either Michael Porter Jr. or Jamal Murray come back at 80 or more % of themselves? And how do you see that affecting their team chemistry? Once again, you can get at me at RockNeverStops2 on Twitter. But other than that, like this video, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, and I'm going to holler at y'all next time. Peace.